Imagine walking home alone late at night and you arrive at a desolate crossroad. That liminal space where decisions are made and stories are born. This is where you might meet her, the Yakshi. Loka began as an original thought from its creator, Dominic Arun. He asked, what if mythical beings we've encountered in our lores and legends were to live amongst us, leading secret lives hiding in plain sight? And in following that line of thought, he led Team Loka to reimagine the iconic Kalingatanili, the fearsome Yakshi from Kerala's popular folklore. Typically portrayed as a bloodthirsty, malevolent spirit in popular culture, in the world of Loka, Neeli became Chandra, a vigilante superhero who protects the vulnerable. A translation, a transformation, an exercise in polyvocality. The Yakshi is often described as the South Asian analog of the vampire. Although this serves more as a cultural placeholder or a shorthand rather than a true equivalent. South Asian folklorists consider Kerala's Yakshi to be a localized adaptation of pan-Indic Yakshi traditions. Nature spirits often associated with fertility cults and sacred geographies. In the Kerala context, she is often represented as a seductive woman who preys on solitary men. A being who comfortably straddles polarities such as desire and danger, vulnerability and power, the sacred and the monstrous, the familiar and the uncanny. The Yakshi reflects cultural anxieties about women who step outside prescribed roles, women who wander the night, who desire, who choose. And like many liminal figures, she occupies the threshold, especially the crossroads. In this talk, I would like to explore the image of the Yakshi at the crossroads in the context of cinema as a medium that too occupies the crossroads, standing as it does at the intersection between image and sound, between art and commerce, between the static and the dynamic, between local tales and the global gaze. The image of the crossroad has long fascinated artists and audiences alike. From Frost to Borges, creators have recognized the crossroads as a space of potential, a site where choices are made. Which way to go? Each turn paves the way for a new story, the birth of a new world. In Loka, that choice involved recontextualizing the Yakshi, bringing her into a contemporary cosmopolitan city, incorporating a visual aesthetic known as the global Gothic, to tell a story that was at once deeply regional and globally familiar. The result? A modern Yakshi who could be a next door neighbor, dressed in practical goth gear, walking alone in a neon city, quietly listening to her playlist until she's required to save the day. A local myth recast through the global language of cinema. Media scholars have long recognized cinema as a site of cultural translation. Films are essentially a contact zone, a space where languages blend, where stories negotiate their meaning through translation, a place where worlds meet. Cinema is also a vehicle for imaginative mobility, allowing creators and the audience to move through different cultural realities. The key point I'd like to assert is something that translation scholars often highlight: that translation is never simply an act of reproducing meaning, that it is an act of reshaping it, that every act of translation is also an act of transformation. So, when locally rooted lore is translated into the global language of cinema, a medium that inherently encourages cultural translation, they don't just get retold, they get transformed. In the case of cinema, it lets a local spirit like the Yakshi travel across the borders of geography, language, and time. Now, you cannot move a character from an oral tradition into global film language without altering how she's seen, felt, and understood. And we get to choose what to carry forward, what to shed, and what to reinvent. Most importantly, when stories move, so do we. We learn to see ourselves differently. We learn to see others differently. So when Loka reimagined Kalinga Neeli as a vigilante superhero coming from a marginalized community, it also provided an opportunity to examine the boundaries between heroes and monsters. To ask whether monsters might just be products of structural violence. While our aim was certainly to make a commercial entertainer, to me, Loka is not just a cinematic adaptation of a well known myth for a modern audience. It was also an opportunity to translate the anxieties of our times: violence, authoritarianism, gender, and justice. This brings me to the core idea I'd like to leave you with: polyvocality. The idea that a story can carry many voices, that a myth does not belong to a single teller or to a single era, that every retelling, whether it is oral, literary, cinematic, or digital, adds a voice to a growing chorus. Essentially, to work with myth is to work inside a polyvocal tradition. It is to acknowledge that our voice will always sit alongside others, never above. I say this because when a film becomes as widely circulated and as popular as Loka has had the privilege to be, it risks assuming the status of canon. Its telling of the myth unwittingly becomes what it tried to escape: the definitive or fixed version cemented in the popular imagination. This is because cinema tends to freeze things. It is, after all, a medium built for posterity. A character on screen becomes a version that is replayed, remembered, archived, and immortalized. But the immortal Yakshi refuses this preservation. She has always been a creature of flux, a figure who changes shape each time she's invoked. As a member of Loka's creative team, let me underscore, particularly for our younger audiences encountering her for the first time, that Kalyangata Neeli has never been a singular monolithic entity. Not in our oral traditions, not in literature, and certainly not in cinema. Neeli is a constellation of ideas and possibilities. If the success of a film like Loka's highlights anything, it is this: that our myths, even the most well entrenched amongst them, willingly lend themselves to reimagination. That although our legends are rooted, they are never fixed. That although our myths are the products of their times, they are not ossified. They are alive, in flux, and shimmering with potential. They may contain elements of the sacred, but they also carry the possibility for irreverence and subversion, of expressing the hopes, dreams, and anxieties of our times. Ultimately, it is these resonances, echoes of our shared humanity, that characters like the Yakshi are capable of unleashing. If Loka's Chandra paid tribute to the Yakshi's representation as a lone spirit weighed down by the angst of surviving centuries, in Agam, Shalini Usha Devi's Dagini was a young woman, troubled, even if not contained, by her husband's paranoia. If Bashir's Bhargavi was flirtatious and playful, MT's Kunyatol from Ennaswandam Janikutti was a benevolent, sisterly confidant. Someday, maybe there will be a Malayalam comedy in the vein of my favorite Only Lovers Left Alive, where a gang of Yakshis, a sisterhood of immortals, ponder the unbearable weight of existential angst with sense of humor. Much like Neeli, cinema too haunts the proverbial crossroads, a space of potential, a space for translation, for dynamic reinvention rather than fixity or erasure. Most interestingly, as if to drive this point home further, something fascinating happened after Loka's release. To the utter delight of the creative team, the Yakshi escaped the film. She exploded into the digital world in the form of memes, fan art, reels, reaction gifs, and of course, advertising. There were Yakshis selling everything from Amul butter to anti-aging skincare to dental services. Now, this is not banal or trivial. It's not just the internet doing what the internet does. From a cultural perspective, this is myth in motion. Because when a character becomes memeable, it means the audience has claimed her. It means that she belongs to the people again. This is polyvocality in action. 1,000 creators lending their voice to the myth. A decentralized, democratic, digital afterlife for the legend. And in some ways, it is more faithful to the spirit of folklore than any single official version could ever be. For a figure as ancient and feared as the Yakshi, this moment of joyful, chaotic recirculation is profound. It proves that she is alive, that she continues her eternal journey. By reinterpreting indigenous myth for modern audiences, Loka serves as a case study that reminds us that global forms of media can amplify local voices, giving new life to old spirits in a connected world. That when folklore becomes the foundation for global storytelling, the result is a rich field of voices. That perhaps even the binaries we allude to when speaking of the Yakshi do her a disservice. Because in the end, the enduring power of the Yakshi is this: she refuses containment. In fact, she epitomizes imaginative mobility, refusing to be pinned down by any one form, one format, one medium, or one author. She keeps changing because we keep changing. Ultimately, there will always be as many Yakshis as there are imaginations, as many iterations of her as there are creators and viewers. And perhaps that is her greatest gift, and of cinema itself: the invitation to return to the crossroads, to choose a new direction each time, the inspiration to engage with the chorus of voices and to keep adding our own. Thank you.